You've been reaching down, spreading those 3 fingers wide, and clamping onto that bowling ball like it might jump out of your hand. Squeeze, lift, grip harder. That's how you were taught, probably 50 years ago, and it's exactly why your thumb aches and your shoulder burns by the 3rd frame. Here's what I found after months of digging. You are not supposed to grip a bowling ball. You are supposed to let it hang. The pros hold it so loosely a child could pull it from their hand, and that single change is the difference between a sore, swollen thumb and a smooth roll. You can still do it 80. The reason nobody told you is simple. The way that feels safe and natural is the way that quietly wrecks your joints. I'm going to show you a fitting secret written down back when the American Bowling Congress first set the rules in 1895, a measurement almost every house ball ignores. I held one of those old drilled balls in my own hands at a shuttered alley outside Toledo, and the moment the old pro shop man there turned my wrist, something clicked that changed how I pick up any weight now. And this works with the exact ball you already use, in the alley you already go to, with the hands you have today. Let me take you back to where this started for me. I had stopped bowling, not because I wanted to, but because my thumb would throb for 2 days after every game, and my shoulder felt like someone had put a hot coal in the joint. My doctor shrugged and said it was age. My friends said the same thing. Give it up, they told me. It's a young person's game now. And I almost believed them. But something nagged at me. My uncle bowled until he was 87. He rolled in a league every Tuesday, carried a 200 average, and never once complained about his hands. He passed in 1998, and I remember at the funeral someone said he had the softest hands of any man they knew, even though he'd worked in a foundry for 40 years. I didn't understand that then. I do now. So I started asking questions. Not the doctors, the old bowlers, the ones still rolling in the morning senior leagues, the ones with white hair and steady scores. And the first thing every single one of them told me contradicted everything I'd ever been shown. They told me the grip is the whole problem, not the weight, not your age, not your arthritis. The grip. Think about how you were taught. Somebody handed you a house ball off the rack, you jammed your fingers in up to the 2nd knuckle, and you squeezed to keep it from falling. That squeeze feels like control. It feels responsible. But that squeeze is the enemy. When you clamp down on a 12 or 14-pound ball, you tense every muscle from your fingertips up through your wrist, into your forearm, across your shoulder, and into your neck. You turn a smooth, swinging motion into a rigid, jerking heave. And a rigid joint takes the full shock of that weight instead of letting it flow through. I watched one man in that morning league, a fellow named Walter who told me he was 79, pick up his ball like it was a coffee cup. Loose, relaxed. His fingers barely curled. He set it into his swing, and the ball did the work. It swung back, it swung forward, and it rolled off his hand like water off a spoon. He shot a 212 while I watched, and afterward he flexed his hand at me and grinned. No pain, he said. 40 years, no pain. Because I learned to stop holding on. That's the first clue. You are holding on too tight, and it's costing you your game and your joints. But loosening your grip on a heavy ball sounds impossible, doesn't it? If you don't squeeze, it falls. That contradiction is what sent me looking deeper, because there had to be a reason the pros could hold loose and I couldn't. And the answer turned out to be hiding in a measurement almost nobody talks about. The reason you have to squeeze that house ball is that it doesn't fit your hand. And here is where the story gets interesting, because the fix for that is older than you'd ever guess. When the American Bowling Congress organized the sport in 1895, they standardized the ball, but they also opened the door to something most casual bowlers never learn about: the span. The span is the distance between the thumb hole and the finger holes. It sounds like a small technical thing. It is, in fact, the entire secret to holding a ball without pain. Here's what I learned from the pro shop man in Toledo, a fellow who'd been drilling balls since the 1960s. He pulled a house ball off the rack and put my hand on it. My fingers reached the holes, but only just, and to keep hold I had to bend and clench. Then he handed me a ball he'd drilled for a customer, one with a longer span fitted to a big hand like mine. My fingers rested in the holes with the last knuckle relaxed, and the weight of the ball hung off the pads of my fingers instead of pulling against a clench. I didn't have to squeeze at all. The ball just hung there, and I could feel my whole arm relax. That's the difference between a ball that fits and a ball off the rack. House balls are drilled for an average, and there is no such thing as an average hand. They're drilled with a short, tight span, so a wide range of people can jam their fingers in. Short span means you must curl and clamp to hold on, and every time you clamp, you strain. Now here's the part that surprised me, because I assumed a custom ball would cost a fortune. I found that having a used ball drilled to fit your hand runs about the price of 2 or 3 nights out to dinner, and a used ball itself often costs less than $40 at a pro shop or a league sale. My uncle, the foundry man with the soft hands, had his own ball drilled to his span in the 1950s, and that is the real reason he bowled pain-free into his late 80s. It wasn't luck, and it wasn't tough hands. It was a measurement. There's a second piece to the span secret that nobody mentions. It's called the fit of the pitch, the angle the holes are drilled at. For older hands, especially hands that have stiffened or swollen even a little, a pro shop can drill the thumb hole at an angle that lets your thumb slide in and out without catching. That catch, that little grab of the thumb hole on the release, is what tears at the joint and leaves it throbbing. A properly angled thumb hole releases clean, so the ache in your thumb was never your age. It was a hole drilled for somebody else's hand, forcing you to clench and yank on every single shot. That's a relief to hear, but it also raised a harder question for me. Because plenty of people I talked to had the right ball and still hurt, and that pointed straight at the second thing you were taught wrong, the weight. Everybody knows the rule. Your bowling ball should weigh 10% of your body weight. You've heard it. I heard it my whole life. A 160-pound man should roll a 16-pound ball, they say, and that rule is quietly hurting a lot of older bowlers. Let me tell you where that number came from and why it doesn't fit you anymore. The 10% guideline was built around competitive bowlers in their prime, people with the strength and speed to throw a heavy ball fast enough to make it hook and carry. It was never meant for a hand that's 70 years old. But it got repeated so many times it turned into gospel, and now you've got men and women in their 70s straining to control a 15-pound ball because somebody told them a 12-pounder wasn't serious. Here's the truth I dug up, and it comes straight from the coaching side of the sport. Ball speed and a clean release matter far more than weight for knocking down pins. A lighter ball you can swing smoothly, release cleanly, and control completely will outscore a heavy ball you have to muscle and heave every single time. The heavy ball doesn't make you better. It makes you tense, slow, and sore. And this is the point where I got a little angry, because I started to see why the heavy ball myth never dies. Walk into most alleys, and the house balls skew heavy, because heavy balls last longer against constant use and cost the house less to replace. The racks are stacked with 14s and 15s and 16s, and the light ones are picked over or drilled badly. You're nudged toward the heavy ball not because it's right for your hand, but because it's convenient for someone else. And nobody in a rented pair of shoes is going to argue with a whole rack of tradition. I tested this myself. I took a 10-pound ball, which felt almost embarrassingly light in my hand, the kind of weight I'd been taught was for children. I bowled a full game with it. I swung it smooth and loose because it was easy to hold, and I shot better than I had in years, with no pain at all the next morning. Then I went back to my old 14 and my thumb was sore by the 5th frame. The lighter ball didn't make me weak, it made me smooth. For a hand with any stiffness or any arthritis, dropping 2 or 3 pounds off your ball changes everything. You stop compensating with a death grip, you let the arm swing, and a smooth swing with a light ball is worth more than a strained heave with a heavy one every single time. So now you've got two pieces of the case solved. Fit the span so you don't have to clamp. Drop the weight so you don't have to strain. But I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now, because I thought it too. You're thinking this is fine for people who still go to the alley regularly, people with steady hands and good balance, and that maybe your bowling days are behind you no matter what I say. That's the objection I want to answer next, because I went looking specifically for the person who thinks this case doesn't apply to them anymore. If you want all of these insights laid out step by step in one place, I put the complete method into a book called Start Strong. It's listed in the description below. It walks you through the span measurement, the weight question, and every grip adjustment we're covering today, so you can take it to your alley and use it on your very next game. Take a look when you have a moment, and then let's keep going, because the reason you can't just loosen your grip on a house ball is about to make a lot of sense. I want to talk directly to you if you've all but given up. Maybe your knees don't like the approach. Maybe your grip strength has faded and even a 10-pound ball feels heavy. Maybe you haven't rolled a ball in 5 years and you assume the moment has passed. I dug up something for exactly you, and you don't need to buy a thing or even leave your living room to start. The first technique is something the old league bowlers taught me, and it costs nothing. It's the two-hand cradle. Before your swing ever starts, you carry the ball with both hands, your throwing hand under it and your other hand cupped on the side, taking most of the weight. Your throwing hand isn't gripping at all in that moment. It's just resting. You only let go with the support hand as the swing begins, so your fingers never have to clamp to hold the whole weight standing still. That one habit takes the strain out of the setup, and the setup is where most older bowlers overgrip without even knowing it. The second thing you can practice at home, sitting in your own chair, is the loose hang. Take anything with a bit of weight and a handle, a small bag, a water jug, a purse. Let it hang from your fingers with your arms straight down at your side. Feel how little effort it takes to hold something when it hangs, instead of when you lift and clench it. Now swing it gently back and forth, letting the weight carry your arm like a pendulum. That is the exact motion of a good bowling swing, and you can train the feel of it without ever stepping on an approach. The swing is not powered by your muscles, it's powered by gravity. Your job is only to let it happen. The third piece is your wrist, and this is the one that saves shoulders. When you hold the ball, your wrist should stay firm and straight, so your hand is right under the ball, not bent back behind it. A bent back wrist forces your forearm and shoulder to fight the weight the whole way through. A straight wrist lets the bones stack up and carry the load, the way a table leg carries a tabletop. You can feel the difference at home with that same jug. Let your wrist flop back and feel the strain climb into your shoulder. Straighten it and feel the weight settle and disappear. If your wrist is weak, a simple cloth wrist support from the drugstore, the kind that costs a few dollars, holds it straight for you and takes years off your bowling arm. None of that requires strength. None of it requires a good knee or a young back. You can do it seated, you can do it in your kitchen, and you can do it starting today. And once your hands remember what a loose hang and a straight wrist feel like, you're ready for the piece that ties this whole case together. Because everything I've told you so far, the span, the weight, the swing, the wrist, all of it exists to make one final moment possible, the release. And the release is where I found the secret that changed everything. For weeks I had all these pieces and I still couldn't fully explain why my uncle's hands stayed soft while mine wore out. I had the fit, I had the weight, I had the swing. But there was one thing I kept hearing the oldest bowlers say, almost in passing, and I didn't understand it until I found it written down in an old coaching manual from the 1960s, tucked in a box of league records that the Toledo Pro Shop man was about to throw out. The manual laid out the delivery step by step, and there was one line about the release that I read 3 times to be sure. The thumb comes out first, That's it. That's the secret the pros know and the casual bowler never learns. On a proper release, your thumb exits the ball before your fingers do. The thumb slides out clean, and then for a split second the ball rolls off the two fingers, off the pads, and that's what puts the smooth roll and even the gentle hook on the ball. But here is why this matters for your body, and this is the part the manual made plain. If your thumb comes out last, or if it sticks even for an instant, you have to yank your hand up and back to free it, and that yank is the exact motion that inflames your thumb joint and jolts your shoulder. Every sore thumb I ever had came from a thumb that left the ball last, catching and dragging on the way out. So how do you make the thumb come out first? This is where the whole case snapped together for me. You make it happen by holding the ball loose, with a relaxed hand, so the thumb, which is the fastest moving part of your hand, naturally falls out ahead of the slower fingers as the ball swings forward and off. A clenched grip traps the thumb. A relaxed grip releases it. The loose hold isn't just easier on your joints in the swing, it is the thing that makes a clean, painless release possible in the first place. Every piece of this investigation was pointing at the same answer the whole time. Stop holding on. And the old manual had one more detail that I have never once heard at a modern alley. It described where the ball should rest in your hand when you set up, and it said the ball should sit back toward the base of the fingers and the palm, cradled, with the thumb pointed slightly inward at about the 10 o'clock position for a right-handed bowler. Not straight down, angled. That small turn of the thumb presets the clean exit, so the thumb is already aimed to slip out first before the swing even begins. I tried it the next morning at the alley. Loose hold, straight wrist, thumb at 10 o'clock, and I let the swing do the work. The thumb came out clean. The ball rolled off my fingers like it was greased, and I felt nothing in my joints at all. Just the quiet whoosh of the ball and the crack of the pins. That's what my uncle knew. That's the softness in his hands. He wasn't gripping and yanking 1,000 times a season the way I had been. He was letting the ball hang, letting it swing, and letting his thumb fall free. 40 years in a foundry and his bowling never cost him a thing, because he learned the release the right way, back when coaches still wrote it down in plain language and handed it across the counter. The knowledge was never lost, not really. It was written down in 1895 when the rules were set. It was taught in league halls through the middle of the last century. It was printed in a coaching manual that nearly ended up in a dumpster outside Toledo. It just stopped being passed down, buried under a rack of heavy house balls and a 10% rule that never fit you, drowned out by the idea that sore hands are simply the price of getting older. They are not. Sore hands are the price of a bad fit and a bad grip, and both of those can be fixed this week. Let me put the whole case in your hands, plain and simple, so you can walk into an alley and use it. Pick a ball that hangs off your fingers without a clench, and if the house balls all force you to squeeze, spend the small money to have a used one drilled to your span and your thumb angle. Go lighter than you were told, 2 or 3 pounds lighter, and let smoothness beat strength. Carry it in 2 hands so your throwing hand never has to clamp while it's just standing there. Keep your wrist straight and under the ball, with a cheap cloth support if you need one. Hold it loose, thumb pointed inward at 10 o'clock. And when you swing, do nothing but let gravity carry your arm and let your thumb slide out first. The ball will roll. The pins will fall. And your hands will feel exactly the way my uncle's did. What was quietly taken from you wasn't your strength, and it wasn't your game. It was a simple piece of know-how that used to be handed across a counter for free. The plain truth that a bowling ball is meant to hang from a relaxed hand, not be strangled by a tense one. You didn't lose your ability to bowl. You were just never given the one measurement and the one motion that make it painless. And I think you're the kind of person who suspected as much. The kind who never quite believed that give it up, it's your age was the real answer. The kind who figures that when something used to be simple and suddenly it hurts and costs and frustrates, somebody somewhere stopped telling you how it was actually done. You were right to be suspicious. You usually are. So here's what I want to know from you, and I'm asking you straight because I want to hear it. When you hold your ball, does your thumb come out first, clean, or does it catch and drag on the way out? Think about your last game and the soreness after, and tell me in the comments below. Type it out. Whether your thumb sticks or slides tells me everything about why your hand hurts, and I read every one of these and answer as many as I can. If you found this, then you belong with the rest of us who are reopening these buried, everyday secrets one at a time, the practical know-how that used to be common and somehow disappeared. Subscribe and stand with us, because this is a community of people who refuse to believe that pain and dependence are just the price of getting older. Next time I'm following a trail I did not expect, into the real reason your grandmother's cast iron pan cooked better than anything you own today, and the 10-cent step almost everyone skips that quietly ruins a good pan for good. I found the document that proves it, and I promise you have never heard this one. Stay with me, and I'll show you what I dug up. Before you go, one thing. This video showed why the grip matters, but inside the Wise Living Circle, I take you all the way through the full hand-fitting method, measured to your very own hand, step by step. And when something puzzles you, ask me directly, and a real person, me, answers you myself. You won't be doing this alone. You belong here with us. Just point your phone's camera at the code, cancel anytime, one click,